What's up, y'all? This is Alex from the Rim Review. The Rim Review is a page that offers in-depth player analysis and gives nuance to the way you watch basketball. In this series, we're going to be going over every single prospect in the upcoming NBA draft. Some of which you may already know, however there are going to be numerous hidden gems we explore in the coming weeks. In today's episode, we're going to be looking at the 6'4" guard out of Baylor, Ja'Kobe Walter. When looking at Walter's offensive game, there are a few strengths that stand out. The first of which is shooting. Ja'Kobe Walter shot 57% of his shots from beyond the arc. That's an obscene margin. While he only shot 34% from three, a lot of the shots that he took were difficult and deep. He was viewed as the number one option at Baylor, so he had a lot of the focus of the defense on him. In the NBA, when he's going to more likely than not be the fifth option on the court when he's playing, that 34% shooting is going to jump up significantly. I loved seeing him shoot off movement, and his shot looks much better than the numbers. Secondly, he is really good at coming off of screens. He takes a clean path, is tight, and runs hard. That's a big reason why he averaged 1.186 points per possession coming off of screens. In Baylor's offense, Ja'Kobe Walter was able to experience coming off of stagger screens, down screens, zip screens, flare screens, and re-screens, floppy actions, as well as every other screen you could think of. Being able to do that has allowed Walter to develop the skills that are going to allow him to be a plug-in piece for any NBA offense. Finally, I think that Ja'Kobe Walter is very intelligent when it comes to moving off the ball. So he doesn't always need a screen to get open, but let's say Ray J. Dennis on Baylor is driving, Ja'Kobe Walter will know to drift to the corner to remain in his eyesight and be open. He knows when to relocate to the top of the key if Yves Nisi has the ball in a post-up. He knows when he needs to run hard, change pace, and do all of that. To be honest, all put together, it shows the makings of a really great catch-and-shoot, spot-up guy in the pros. There are still some offensive weaknesses to Walter's game. The first of which is he has a very inconsistent handle. For many scouts, they actually view his handle as a plus and a cherry on top, because if you focus on him as a spot-up player, his handle is actually quite solid. However, I think the general consensus around his game, in particular from the media and fans, people will think of him as someone that can create for himself. And I promise you, he cannot do that. His handle is loose, and he turns the ball over when you view him as a scorer that is like the Malik Monk type. I saw in an ESPN mock draft recently that compared him to Malik Monk, and I don't think he fits that comparison at all, and a big reason behind that is his inconsistent handle. Secondly, I would say that Ja'Kobe Walter is pretty poor in the pick and roll. He doesn't do a great job making the right reads, he telegraphs his passes at times, and he averaged .736 points per possession in the pick and roll. Those are not great numbers and are things that I think he once again needs to work on. And I think a lot of these weaknesses come down to what lens are you viewing Ja'Kobe Walter as. If you're taking the ESPN conventional narrative, where he's going to be a high volume guy, maybe a sixth man that's going to explode and create for himself, then these are some massive weaknesses. However, if you have my opinion, and I view him much more as a Duncan Robinson style player, then all of a sudden these things aren't as big as a weakness and are more a plus. Finally, I think he has a tendency to settle, and in particularly when he attacks closeouts, he takes far too many mid-range jump shots, and I just don't love that part of his game. Now, let's get into the film and watch Ja'Kobe Walter play. On this possession, Walter's going to get the ball, slow down, and then change pace to score in transition. I don't necessarily think that he exploded here, as he really just goes from not moving at all to moving a little bit, but still slightly faster. However, it's showing a flash of him scoring. On this clip though, it's far more often what his transition possessions look like. He's off balance and has a soft finish. I'd like to see him maybe have a slow Euro step or some kind of move rather than just jumping into your man when you're not on balance. On this possession against Colgate, it's more of the same from Ja'Kobe Walter. He's trying to go coast to coast, He changes directions, but once again, a couple of issues occur here. The first of which is his pickup point. He picks the ball up right here with two guys on him. At this point, there's really nothing you can do because you don't have your dribble, so you can't try to go around and attack this guy. He tries to get his man up with a pump fake, but it doesn't work, and he forces a bad shot. If I were him, I think his best move is to wait for his teammate to relocate and hit him back here. Unfortunately, he forces a bad shot, once again speaking to that tendency to settle. On this possession, Yves Missi is going to set a drag screen in transition. Walter dribbles into it and buries a three. Now, in a non-transition setting, Jacoby Walter is once again calling for a ball screen. He gets the ball here, and now is going to have a screen leading him to the top of the key. A couple of things to note here. The first of which is the fact that the defender is in drop. Because of this, if Yves Missi makes contact, Walter's job is to immediately shoot. He does a nice job of that, and his shot looks solid, it just doesn't fall. On this clip, Jacoby Walter is once again calling for a ball screen. However, this time, he refuses the screen and takes a deep three. He takes really tough shots like that one, and that's why his shooting percentage is as low as it is, but he makes a decent amount, which makes it a lot more of an impressive number. Right here, he refuses again, but he loses the ball. He's trying to set up Kansas big Johnny Furphy, but he dribbles right into him, his handle is high, and it's a turnover. On this possession, it's another instance of a refuse not working great for Jacoby Walter. He calls for a screen here, refuses, but once again, just doesn't have the tightest and quickest handle, and it gets ripped. Now, let's watch him attack drop coverage on this clip right here. He's going to call for this ball screen, and the big isn't drop. He pump fakes and plays off of 2 feet to score. What I love seeing here is the 2-foot finish. He has a nice jump stop here, look with 2 of his feet, and then he's able to use both feet to get through and have a nice shot. On this possession, it's another time attacking drop coverage where he pulls a floater versus the drop. On this action, Jacoby Walter is once again going to be involved in a ball screen play. Right here, the ball screen occurs near the slot, and Walter gets a switch. Walter showcases a really crafty handle and a great finish around the rim. If you view him as the Duncan Robinson prospect that I see him as, it really makes this much more impressive, as now he's showcasing a deeper handle. However, if you see him as this isolation scorer, that's just the norm for you. On this possession, he's going against drop coverage from Ryan Young right here. Once Yves Missi gets below Ryan Young, Walter should be looking up, and this honestly could be a lob pass, maybe even if it's not a lob dunk, just pass it ahead to Yves Missi. Jeremy Roach is going to be late here, he's not in the best spot to provide resistance, and he's already leaning to Jalen Bridges anyway. Ryan Young doesn't have elite leaping ability and isn't going to be able to deflect this pass. You need to hit Missi here. Instead, he takes an off-balance floater, and these are the awkward plays in the settling that I hate to see. On this possession, it's another ball screen from Jacoby Walter. Walter's going to get the DHO here and twist it, now causing a switch where he's guarded by Wiggins of Clemson. He attacks Wiggins, but can't get by Chauncey and struggles. Chauncey Wiggins is able to stay in front of him here, and Walter just dribbles off his foot, showcasing a weak handle. On this play, it's another lack of separation from Jacoby Walter. Walter's getting the ball right here and calls for a ball screen that he twists. He just can't separate by his man and settles once again. I'd like to see him have a more comfortable jump stop, and honestly, you have a shovel pass to Yves Missi right here if you'd like, and then you've got 2 guys in the air, and then Missi's driving, and you have a 2-on-1 right here. That would be a much better play than this fadeaway awkward floater. On this possession, Jacoby Walter is once again involved in a pick and roll action. He gets the ball here, and now has an empty ball screen with no one being on this side. He gets the screen, but decides to settle for this jump shot. There's 7 seconds on the shot clock, and this is the worst shot in basketball. The long two that's contested is horrible. The spacing wasn't great there, but that shot cannot happen. Now let's watch Walter in isolation. Right here, Walter is going to come off a screen and be in an isolation setting. However, he just doesn't beat his man. I don't even know who his defender is, but based on the fact that he's playing in Cornell and Walter is an NBA lottery potential player, Walter has to be able to get by him. This can't happen. On this possession, it's another isolation play for Jacoby Walter. He gets the ball here, but just dribbles right by, no separation, and it becomes a turnover. Against Auburn, this is another opportunity where Jacoby Walter showcases a real lack of skill in isolation. Right here, he rips through, has an early pickup point, and has a soft finish. The number one thing I'd like to point out here is this gap right here causes him to pick up the ball and is off balanced. A more skillful guard would be able to maintain their balance and hit this man rolling right here for an easy layup. Instead, Walter forces up a horrible shot. Now let's watch the good stuff, which is Jacoby Walter coming off screens. On this under out of bounds play, Walter does an awesome job. Let's look at this, and they're in a diamond set. Walter initially fakes like he's setting a screen here, and then turns around to go the other direction, comes off a Yves Missi screen, and it's just a great action run by Baylor, and he shoots it with confidence. They run a very similar set here. It's actually the exact same play, and he gets a wide open three. Baylor had a lot of creative plays, and it led to Walter being comfortable coming off of screens. Right here, he comes off a double screen and knocks it down. Once again, he sets his man up, changes direction, and looks good shooting off movement. On this play against Colgate, it's going to be another screening action for Jacoby Walter. On this play, he changes direction, shoots off movement, and it just doesn't fall. The reason why I included this is to remind you once again, he did only shoot about 34.7% from beyond the arc. I'd like to see him shoot better, but these are tough shots that he's making. Right here, Walter's going to be involved in a dribble handoff action, and look how deep he's shooting from, and he still makes it with confidence. Right here, it's another catch and shoot play where Walter is playing deep and knocks it down. He's first going to call for a ball screen and then get the ball right back. And this is beyond NBA range 3. This is almost from that secondary logo. Really good stuff. Jacoby Walter here going against Texas is first going to come off this zoom action. Can't get by. And then what I love seeing here is that he tries to drift, because as this drive occurs right here, it forces this defender to come in and help, and Jacoby Walter drifts in this direction to become more open, where he knocks down a three. On this play, it's more good off-ball movement from Jacoby Walter. I think his moving off-ball is really exciting. As this drive occurs right here, this Cornell defender is more focused on Ray J. Dennis, so Jacoby Walter drifts to the corner, gets wide open, and knocks it down. I love seeing that level of movement, and it really showcases what he could do in the pros. Right here, Jacoby Walter is going to relocate to the corner and knock it down. Great off-ball awareness. On this play, Jacoby Walter isn't going to make his three, however, it showcases more good movement. He's going to wait, relocate, he just can't knock it down. On this possession, Jacoby Walter is involved in a shake action. Basically, what a shake is it's when this ball screen occurs right here. Jacoby Walter is going to lift up. What's beneficial about this is Jack Clark of Clemson has to come in and catch this roll man, and he can't be focused on Walter, so when Walter lifts, he gets an open shot, it just doesn't fall. Let's watch one clip of Jacoby Walter attacking a closeout. He didn't do it often, so there's not many, but on this play, he attacks a closeout and plays off of 2 to score. Now that we've looked at Jacoby Walter's offense, let's move on to his game defensively. Before we get into his defensive strengths, I want to highlight the fact that the way Baylor ran their team this year was to prioritize offense over defense. Because of this, Jacoby Walter was not necessarily forced to utilize his game defensively, and that's a big reason why he was, to be honest, a horrible defender. When looking at his strengths though, the one thing that does stand out to me is the fact that he had good size and solid combine numbers. He was up in the top third of all players in the combine in most of the sprint speeds, and he has good size for a guard with pretty long arms. This allows me to think that he has the tools to potentially become a better defender. Baylor just did not bring it out of him. That being said, there are still some massive defensive weaknesses that need to be discussed when talking about Walter's game. The first of which is his screen navigation is bad. It leads to him struggling to bully a ball screen in the pick and roll. He has a low impact point and gets beat by most pick and roll actions. His off-ball screen navigation also needs work. Secondly, his off-ball awareness in general is pretty poor. He oftentimes is caught being way too deep and over in the gaps. Sometimes he just isn't paying attention and loses his man, and he just takes possessions off defensively. That's why on spot-up plays, he was in the 15th percentile in all of college basketball. What this is letting you know is that his man is able to slowly move by him and just, without him even looking, get wide open shots. Next, he is extremely poor in driving line situations. This is a part of his game that I actually think he could develop into being a decent and maybe even good driving line defender because of his length and solid athleticism. However, at Baylor, he looked very disengaged. Sometimes he's not standing in a stance, sometimes he's not paying attention, and sometimes he just gets cooked. Next, I would say that he's overly jumpy in closeouts. Because he very frequently will be in situations where he's almost over-helping or losing his man, by the time he runs to close out, he's almost exclusively jumping without paying attention to potential pump fakes. He doesn't chop his feet and just isn't good in those situations. Finally, I would say that he's not a very good defensive communicator. There are multiple clips where it seemed like it could have been very easily fixed by just talking on defense, but it doesn't seem that that is something that he does a lot. In the NBA, if you ever are fortunate enough to sit courtside at an NBA game, you're going to hear them talking the entire time. That's something that Jacoby Walter, to be honest, just doesn't do. I would say that most rookies don't talk, but to Jacoby Walter, it was so noticeable that I was even able to see on film him not talking. I would like to see him improve this, and that would allow him to be much better. Once again though, Baylor was an amazing offensive team last year, and they prioritized developing offense over defense. So a lot of these weaknesses could be fixed with an NBA team that is able to work on developing both aspects of his game. Now, let's get into the film and watch Jacoby Walter play on defense. In this situation, Jacoby Walter is going to have to defend in the driving line. Walter's guarding number 21 of BYU, who gets the ball right here, and there are a couple things I want to notice here. The first of which is the fact that when Walter's man catches the ball, Walter immediately opens up and gives him a path. As you see right here, he's almost playing next to his man rather than in front of him. Secondly, look at Walter get pushed out here. It's that lack of physicality that's very concerning. On this possession, Jacoby Walter is guarding Jordan Pope of Oregon State. Pope gets the ball right here, and then as Walter is going to try to guard him, Walter just doesn't provide any resistance here. On this clip right here, Walter's not even in front of his man and is literally just playing beside him, and we see the exact same thing here. Walter standing straight up, not in a stance, and is just not providing much resistance at all. On this clip against Jeremy Roach of Duke, Jacoby Walter needs to get a stop. It's an 8-point game with 3 minutes left. You'd like to see him be engaged. However, he doesn't talk well and is concerned about this Jared McCain ghost screen right here. So he's worried that Jared McCain is going to set a screen, but if you're worried he's going to set a screen, you need to be bullying over here. But Walter's not communicating, and Roach blows by him, drawing the foul. Let's watch this at full speed just to get the full context. He doesn't talk, gets cooked by the change of pace, and Duke is able to get free throws to seal the game. Now, let's watch Jacoby Walter in a pick and roll situation. Right here, Kyle Filipowski is going to set a screen, but Jacoby Walter cheats and gets beat by the refuse. As you can see, when Flip comes up to set the screen, Walter's first 2 steps are not towards his man, but are instead this direction. This allows Jeremy Roach to easily blow by him and get a layup. On this possession, Jacoby Walter is once again involved in a screening action. He gets clipped right here, and now is playing behind his man, and his man gets an easy layup. Right here, Jacoby Walter once again struggles to bully a ball screen. This screen occurs right here, Walter gets clipped and gives up a wide open mid-range. Look at how Walter spins here as soon as his contact is made. It's just awkward and clearly shows a lack of physicality. On this possession, going up against Texas, it's another bad screen navigation. This dribble handoff occurs here, Walter's clipped, and once again, when he gets clipped, he almost falls over, and it leads to a wide open mid-range shot and 2 points. Now, let's watch Jacoby Walter play off the ball. Right here, he's guarding Jared McCain of Duke. Kyle Filipowski is very clearly about to set a screen right here. Jacoby Walter either should be top blocking Jared McCain, who's a really good shooter, or be remaining attached to Jared with an arm on him at all times. Walter starts off with an arm on him, but immediately lets go right before the screen is about to occur, and Jared is able to get wide open. Look as he takes his arm away here, gets clipped, and gives Jared a wide open mid-range jump shot. On this possession, it's another off-screen play from Walter. Walter right here somehow manages to get beat by both screens and falls for a bad pump fake. One thing I'd like to mention again is Jacoby Walter, because he gets clipped so often, instead of chopping his feet, results to jumping, and it gives up a wide open mid-range shot. Now let's watch more off-ball defense from Jacoby Walter. Right here, Jacoby Walter is paying attention to this man right here, which is not always the worst thing in the world. But what I'd like to see is Walter be a step in right here, building a wall, have a quick swipe at the ball, and then go back to your man. Walter's looking at the ball, but doesn't actually do anything, and it allows his man to relocate and get a wide open corner 3. As you see right here, Walter's man is already drifting in this direction, and Walter really isn't doing anything. He's just standing there, and it gives up a 3. Now let's watch another closeout situation for Jacoby Walter. Right here, Walter is guarding the man in the corner. When this skip pass occurs, first off, Jacoby Walter, his eyes are just on the screen rather than the screen and the ball. And then this closeout, look at his knees right here. His knees are almost pointing inward against each other. He's not chopping his feet, and he just gets blown by, and it leads to a bucket. Now let's watch some more off-ball defense. Right here, it's Jacoby Walter's job to be the MIG. What I mean by that is Jacoby Walter should be in this position right here to catch this roll man. It's important that Jacoby Walter is honestly already there right now, so when the ball hits this man, Jacoby Walter can stunt and quickly back out here. Jacoby Walter is late being in the MIG, so when the guy is already open, then Jacoby starts moving in this direction with all of his momentum coming this way, so Jacoby can't load his feet and close out. Let's watch this at full speed and you'll see what I meant. He's late to the MIG, then can't balance for the skip pass, and is having a weak closeout for a 3. Right here, it's another opportunity with Walter not being in the MIG. Right here, he comes over once the pass has already been thrown, and then is way too jumpy on the closeout and gets beat. On this possession, it's another late closeout from Jacoby Walter. Right here, he's coming in, initially takes a step in the paint, comes out. Right here, he's once again late, and then just doesn't chop his feet. I don't really like seeing him. He's not chopping his feet here, just doesn't look good, and it's awkward and tough to see. On this last clip, I want to highlight that Jacoby Walter's man is the guy who gets the ball here. Walter's not paying attention, doesn't talk at all, and gives up a wide open layup. Let's watch this once again. Walter's not engaged. You always should be identifying the ball. His teammates are communicating. Walter's not paying attention, and it's just bad basketball. The big initial question for Jacoby Walter's game is, will his offense be good enough to outweigh the bad defense? In order for this to happen for Jacoby Walter, he's going to need to shoot at a much higher percentage. I think that it is likely that that can happen because, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, at Baylor, Jacoby Walter was being targeted and was taking really difficult shots, and in the flow of an NBA offense, he's going to get easier catch-and-shoot looks. Additionally, I think Jacoby Walter, with NBA coaching, can tighten up his handle a little bit, and all of a sudden now, we have a catch-and-shoot guy who also can put the ball on the floor, and Jacoby Walter has a 38.5-inch vertical. So all of these things are getting you really excited about him offensively. However, if he doesn't develop his defense, he will never truly be able to be a starting level contributor. When looking at what I think he has to do defensively, the first thing is he has to be engaged. 60% of defense is effort, and that is what Jacoby Walter needs to work on. If he's willing to try defensively, his athleticism is there to the point where he could become a decent defender. As far as looking what his NBA career could be like, I think his ceiling is a Chris Middleton type player. Chris Middleton was not a great defender when he initially came into the league, and I think Walter is in a very similar boat. While Walter is a couple inches shorter than Middleton, I think Walter's length and athleticism make up for that, and if Walter continues to have elite shooting, shows flashes of putting the ball on the floor, and remains engaged defensively, all of a sudden we have somebody that is an all-star level player. That's a really high ceiling, especially in this draft class. In my opinion, though, I don't necessarily buy the idea of Jacoby Walter putting it together defensively. I think that a much more likely outcome for Jacoby Walter is to be a shorter Duncan Robinson who can put the ball on the floor. I think that Jacoby Walter is going to be the type of player that offensively is going to run around off screens and knock down shots and be a nice piece off the bench for an NBA offense. However, you're never going to be able to keep him on the floor for an extended period of time because teams will go at him on the defensive end. Because of that, I think that that is his more likely, just career outcome for him. But you know what? If Jacoby Walter can be Duncan Robinson, that's making a lot of money and being in the NBA for a long time. As far as what I think his floor is, I do think he has a pretty high chance of getting washed out of the NBA very quickly. The reasoning behind this, is his defense. If you're not even a competent defender, you're not going to get on an NBA court. Secondly, if his shooting stays more at the 34% and doesn't take the jump that you think it would by taking easier shots, all of a sudden he doesn't really provide much offensively. And in that world, he could be out of the NBA in 2.5 to 3 years. As far as where I would pick him, I'm actually lower on Jacoby Walter because I am very worried about this floor outcome, and I see it being a lot more likely than I would necessarily his ceiling. And because of that, I would pick Jacoby Walter in the late first round, going in the range of 20 to 30. I know yesterday he was just invited to the NBA Green Room along with 11 other prospects, but I would not be surprised if Jacoby Walter is the last of those 12 to actually get out of the Green Room. Overall, that's my take, and let me know what your thoughts are in the comments, and we'll be back at it again tomorrow with another episode of The Rim Review.